What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the phone again, and this time we are here with Groovie Man of my life with the Thrill Kill Cult. It is so great to be able to talk with you. Thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me. Sorry about all the mess up.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I got to tell you, maybe technology doesn't work in the favor. It's so much in like the interview world, but it works in your favor when you put out some of the greatest industrial music that we've heard. So works for the
Uh,
best.
oh, shit. Yeah.
But
Thank you.
it's so awesome to have you here, man. I just wanted to really talk about a little bit of the history and the songwriting with my life with the Thrill Kill Cult. As somebody who listens to you, you could tell what songs would be off of Confessions of a Knife, what would be off of 13 Above the Night, Hit and Run Holiday, etc. How has your songwriting process always came to be? Was it always like a vision that you all had in mind in a way, or was it like a very experimental songwriting process?
Oh, wow. It was sort of like from album to album, whatever was going on with us and what we were compiling around our own lives together and separate. It was always a reflection of that. I mean, Buzz would have some ideas and some framework sometimes, and we would just sort of set in it and decide, maybe a storyline or a lot of times I would have I bring my lyric books and stuff that I've compiled, and we'll sort of work on a clump of things and see what comes out of that, and sort of develop stories around sort of abstract lyrics and things, and sort of put it into form.
Hmm.
You know.
Because the lyrical subject matter, I could tell with my life with the Thrill Kill Cult. You tap on everything from the erotic to the morbidly erotic in a way. Have you always thought of things from like a conceptual standpoint, where a lyrical idea could help influence the sound of the music?
Like say a sample would be the ignition for it, right? Like, you know, um, I think I'm reading this right. Like taking one line and capitalizing on it
Yeah.
into a story. Yeah, I mean, we do that. Like from a title, we've written songs from just titles, and then, you know, created the story behind the title. Like how, you know, we sort of created the music behind the movie. Like we say, we did the soundtrack first. That was sort of our statement of the beginnings.
Yeah. This year also does mark 30 years of 13 Above the Night, and which I can, a lot of people consider as classic of an industrial album, as Mind is a Terrible Thing to Taste or Pretty Hate Machine, any of the classics in a way. What was the sort of memory behind the making of 13 Above the Night?
Oh gosh, that was our, I think, well, first Interscope album after they reissued Sexplosion, and then that was our first like record through on the big label,
Mm.
and it was an adventure. I mean, we wrote a song a day. We were writing in like a 2 week time frame. I was living in Chicago, and I flew out from Malibu and stayed there. I remember, our goal was the track a day. Then we went to the studio in Santa Monica, which was all, big and exciting too. And I stayed in a suite while we recorded it because Mars lived in Malibu. Lydia Lunch flew in for that. We were staying in a suite, and I was laying the vocals for the tracks in the studio. And what else was good? Barbara Streisand was recording downstairs, so sometimes we had to turn the music down, the kick, because her people would come up and go, Miss Streisand, you have to turn it down.
Oh, why did you should have gotten her featured on a song?
Oh my, yeah, right. I used to go in the room and try to get her pens or Kleenex or anything she touched, but her like crew cleaned everything out. Anyway, oh, Air Supply was recording there too.
Wow.
I know, only in LA. But so yeah, that was sort of awkward. But we were working a song a day. We were recording, as fast as our time could take us, and it was pretty exciting. So yeah, we sort of just would go in and create from the ideas that we had already set, and for each track, and then sort of
Yeah.
work on it.
Well, one thing I've always found very unique about my life with the Thrill Kill Cult is how you're able to get, your music is very technically impressive and it's very, thought provoking, but you also never shied away from having a sense of humor in a way. So it's not like you and Buzz needed to be in a specific headspace in order to write music, right? Everything was just more of a gut feeling.
Yeah, I mean he pegs a lot of the framework now, and pretty much, he figures out everything, and then I sort of go in and apply, to whatever we need vocally, and infiltrate that into the tracks, and then he'll chop it up again, and he does his magic. As everyone can hear, I mean, he's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. Have all of you needed to be in the same emotional headspace when writing together in a way, or do your differences maybe actually help enhance the song?
Well, like say when we were doing, yeah, we're like both in the driver's seat when we're on what we do. Like I said, there's a couple phases. Like I'll go in with a bunch of lyrics and ideas that I've had from working with the backing tapes and stuff, and I'll just go in and do whatever I feel, and just do it, and he'll record it, and he'll go through it and see if there's anything that works and then that catches, and we sort of like then put that into the puzzle, and work on it some more and see what's going on. Other times we'll sit side by side and peg out each story or each event that's going on, like as in Hit and Run Holiday. That was a concept album, and it was written purposely as that. So that was sort of our first album like that.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, I've always been fascinated by how concept albums can really take you on a story and a journey. I mean, when it comes to the subject matter that is being addressed in a song, does it resonate with you in a different level? If you're singing about Satan or Jesus or about sexuality, or you're singing about a personal struggle, does it hit you differently depending on the subject matter?
Oh, you mean like doing a concept record?
Yeah.
It takes sort of time to fall into it. It seems silly to you or too contrived because your head's not there. And then once your head gets in that sort of, Beverly Hillbilly story or whatever, to make it fun, as you said before, fun. You can see that we have a sense of humor. That's probably why we've lasted 30. We're going on 36 years. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's sort of what's frosted the cake, I think. But yeah, it's,
Yeah. Now, next year is going to mark 30 years of probably many of our favorite films, The Crow, which we got the amazing feature of After the Flesh on there. Could you just please tell me anything about that? What, like when you are in the company of Henry Rollins and Helmet and Pantera and The Cure on an amazing soundtrack, and that's just to name a few. I mean, that had to have been quite an experience, right?
yeah, I was like, oh, they're on there too. Well, The Cure, I like, I thought that was fun. Like, oh, Robert.
Yeah, but to have your music featured in that. Like, how has that maybe changed your perspective on that song?
Uh, it's so wild because, you know, that's what we get recognized for, like from the middle that generation now. They're like, oh, the Crow. They're not like, oh, cooler than Jesus or Sexplosion. Like, there's a whole crew of people out there that, discovered us, that way. And that's like the hard edge cult, and I like that a lot too. I like having that side to us, you know.
Yeah.
I like the mean shit.
Well, I don't mean to make anybody feel old by any means, but when it came to not just Thrill Kill Cult, but a lot of like classic industrial bands, I was a total late bloomer with it. I got into it mainly in like 2014 when I discovered Spooky Tricks. That was my first time getting into my life with the Thrill Kill Cult in a way.
Oh yeah,
Because
that's cool.
yeah, I was born in 1993, so
Oh, you take the cake now.
yeah, I'm
my
honored.
buddies start out being born in 1984. So
Wow. Yeah.
you make that now. You're the young one.
Yeah. Well, hey, but they got that George Orwell year, so
Oh yeah, no, it's good. That's good.
yeah. But
That's a good year.
but with Spooky Tricks being 10 years old next year, because I feel, Spooky Tricks was my first Thrill Kill Cult album, which means that In the House of Strange Affairs was the first time that I remember, like, looking forward to a new album. So Spooky Tricks going into that, and
Oh,
then
that's
5 years in the
wild.
house. So, like, what was the sort of mindset in that era of Thrill Kill?
Of what?
Spooky
In the
things.
House of Strange Affairs. Oh, Spooky Tricks.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that was. Let me think. I started to live here more and adapt more because I came from Chicago in 2008, so I was sort of into living here. And I don't know, Spooky Tricks is sort of it. It's just kind of crazy, I don't
Hmm.
know. The Adderall album.
The Adderall album. That's a great
I'm
title.
just making a
Yeah,
joke.
yeah,
It's kind of quirky and hyper, and like you don't really know what's up with it. So maybe that was our transitional record. I don't. It's so hard to say. When I listen to some of the music, I can go back and I can tell exactly what was going on with my life, even though when I'm pegging a lot of the stuff, I don't really pay attention. I just want a good, fun. We aim for like a good track, and that we're both happy with, and makes us smile. So that's all I can really think about. But I can go back, like I can play Death Threat and be like, oh my God, I can just. It's like watching a movie for me because I can feel each song and know why they're there.
Mhm.
Whereas some of the stuff, you just do it and it's there. And you don't really remember it. But other stuff, it engrades in and that's good.
Mhm. I mean, with the this is like a debate I like to have with artists in a way about like the evolution of an artist's songwriting, because when you compare I See Good Spirits and I See Bad Spirits all the way up to In the House of Strange Affairs, there is such an evolution through Thrill Kill Cult. Do you believe evolution is something that you can be in charge of, that you have control over your own evolution, or is that something that has to come naturally?
I think it's a natural thing, and I think your listeners, they embellish what they think is good, and it just all depends upon how many people embellish what's good. I mean, if they continually discover you and are like, oh yeah, then that's a really beautiful thing, because it's like the success of your music, because people want more. They want to know what the stories are or what it means, or they just like the feeling of what this song brings. They don't even know what the words are, but when they put it on, they're like hopping around silly, or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's what's good about music
I
too.
That's one of the beautiful things about music. Now, here's another thing we need to talk about because as a band who's been labeled in the industrial days, you always have your name tied to the Wax Trax days, and working with Al Jurgensen back when you were in Chicago and stuff. But I see so many differences between my life with the Thrill Kill Cult compared to Nine Inch Nails or Skinny Puppy or Ministry to a band like Static X or Fear Factory. What makes something industrial in your eyes? What would define the style of industrial?
What now, or just well? Hmm, I think now I would say industrial is like Static X and those bands that have like integrated that sort of like techno driving, a commando kind of thing. You know, I don't know. That's a hard one to figure out.
Yeah, because I just saw Skinny Puppy on their farewell tour a couple weeks ago, and they too like had a lot of differences that I would never see in a lot of bands that have been labeled as the same thing.
Okay, all right. That Thanks for bringing me back to the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I mean they're the perfect example, and since I say I was starting up in my transition in music in '86 after I'd come back from London in '83, I sort of was buzzing around. That's where we saw Skinny Puppy. We liked them from the start. We had heard their music, and they were sort of bits and pieces of things. They weren't really industrial yet, or what industrial became. I don't even though they are they have that industrial sound. They're still so theatrical, and Ogre's so not industrial in a way as a creative. I think it's much deeper than people really see Skinny Puppy, but that's it. I think they're way different than the rest of the stuff.
Yeah, and
You know what I mean?
of course, and when Ministry put out With Sympathy, they weren't even calling themselves industrial at that point.
Oh God, no! Al wouldn't even. He used to get mad about that record. I remember he would break it in half if I was working at the store and shit. Like he'd break it in half, or people, and I'd be like, they'd be like, "Well, Al signed this." I'm like, "Don't let him see it; he'll just break it."
Yeah.
He would back then. I was cracking up seeing him signing it on Facebook. I'm like, "Oh my God, anything for fame."
What does he have against that album? That's a classic.
Oh, we hated it because he changed over and got all his sound changed, thank God. But oops, anyway.
Well, I mean, I think the
I
sound.
like I like Al. I mean, how can we not know each other?
Yeah, of
I
course.
love his band. His band's great. They're great guys, and when we have to be around each other, we have a riot together. We're nuts.
Yeah, of course. When it comes to the movies, I should have asked this earlier in the interview, but because The Crow isn't the only film that Thrill Kill Cult has been featured on, whether it be Cool World or Totally Fucked Up or the Amityville Legacy in a way. When your music is featured in a movie or a film or being expressed through a different form of art, does that bring a new type of meaning to it?
I don't know. You know, the it's funny how that works because you hear stories about, oh, I'm not going to sell out, and all this shit. Well, once you get signed, you know, to a major back then, all this stuff's coming at you like, oh, you want to be on the soundtrack for this and that, and or in the opening of a film, and you know you're still very arty and temperamental about what you're doing. So you're like, I don't know. So I remember when the Flintstones soundtrack came up, and they were like, oh yeah, they want you guys to put something on the Flintstones. And I remember going, Flintstones, I don't know about that. And they're like, well, it's like 30,000. I'm like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, yeah, and
You're
anybody,
like, okay, that's okay.
I mean, come on,
Then
who?
you don't care.
Yeah,
It don't matter to sell out. Come on. What? It's been over 20 years already then. It's like, oh, have some fun. And then you go into a different world. You get in all, we were in Sliver and all those Greg Rocky movies. We didn't even get credited a lot of times, you know? It's kind of funny. You can be. I've watched movies and I've heard our music, and I'm like, why does that sound so familiar? It's like it's Thrill Kill Call.
well, I mean, that's the beauty of it, and it almost seems like with your songwriting process, as you could tell what would be off of Sexplosion, or what would be off of Gay, Black, and Married, or what would be off of Death Threat. Like it's fair to say that you and Buzz were never afraid to try new things in your songwriting, right?
No, never. No, Buzz. He just puts them out there, and and I just apply who I am, and what I do, and we run with it, and we have fun with it. We really do. We don't really get into big music snags when we write. When something doesn't work, we go to the next song.
Yeah, of
Or
course.
go to lunch.
Go to next song. Go to that was really fucking. That was really good. That was awesome. I'd imagine too with the release of every album as well. It gets harder and harder to put a set list together when playing live, right?
Oh God, yeah. It's like, people want you to hear songs, and it always happens. We'll go out on the road and have the set list right, and then the fans are like, "Oh, you better be playing Blue Buddha," and it's like not in the set. It always happens. There's always those things like they'll like say, 3 songs, and it's like they're not in the set.
Yeah, you can't please anybody. You're always gonna have that one fan who probably wants like that unreleased demo that came before I See Good Spirits and I See Bad Spirits days too.
Oh yeah. Well, they'll get that soon.
Uh, well, now you led me perfectly into the final portion of this interview.
All right.
Yeah, and that is of course we got the Sinister Whispers 4 coming out, and which the bedroom tapes, which has a lot of what we may have not have seen in the previous past. So with this bedroom series tapes, the Sinister Whispers series, what could we be expecting to hear on this, and how would you say it really is different from the rest of the Thrill Kill Cult catalog?
Well, it's sort of it's like pre-cult. So it was like when we met in '86 as friends, and we just knew each other for that first year. Then '87, he relocated to Chicago, and we started to work together. He moved across the street and got a place, and I'd go over there, and we'd work there on music. So I'd bring beer, and we'd smoke pot and do a little sniffy maybe sometimes, but and I'd have all this, my lyrics and tapes and stuff of loops and things I collected, and he had music clips and shit. And we would literally just get together and jam. He'd put on some loop, or we'd make a loop out of a sample and create. And we'd just sing and jam. And, I would just go. Sometimes I'd use lyrics, and sometimes I would just improvise. And, so it's all free flowing. And, there's some jams on there without vocals. And, it's like TKK raw,
Yeah.
you know?
it seems like a lot of cool stuff has been coming back too, like from the undergrounds. From like I remember a couple years ago, like the reissue of a lot of the Wax Tracks stuff from back in the day, and
Yeah.
you know, like you see a lot of I mean, and sadly this tour got canceled from the virus that shall not be named. But to see that there was going to be a tour with like Ministry and Frontline Assembly and all that like happening together.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
right.
and now that sick New World Fest that I know you guys are going to be on.
Oh
Yeah,
God,
like
that's like wild. I can't believe that one yet. Like, wow, it's gonna be big.
yep. And this is one of my last two questions. But what is your take on the worlds of the industrial and the goth scene now? Because I feel like that there's a lot of great new bands that have taken inspiration from you guys as well, from bands like Three Teeth, Arthur and Punisher, Contra Cult Collective. It seems like that there's a really good scene happening now for this sort of industrial style.
I can see it building again, pretty much. Yeah. The goth industrial thing. I see that sort of rising to a more solid strength, and I also see punk coming back and being real headstrong in a good, fresh way too. I can't name any bands specifically on either side of the fence, but you know, I think things are sounding better, and I can see where people have been inspired by us.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sometimes it makes me giggle a little, like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. You should check out.
But it's good. It's good. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's not about judging. It's like, do your thing. Get out there. If you have the power, not TikTok, go out and fucking rehearse and make a band old school and have fun, and then incorporate electronic shit and stuff, and without these kids out there still doing it, kids, sorry,
Mm.
but I would hate that when my aunt said that to me, but I think that's great. They're still doing it, and I do think it's better that they're coming out of their bedrooms too. A lot of these people got starstruck doing the one-man show thing, which is a successful thing, but a lot of people aren't that good, and it's just clogging the the highway. You know what I mean. It's just everybody can't be a star.
No, absolutely.
That's why the music scene everything's just creamed. I mean, saturation sort of spoils it. I still, that's why I encourage people to be better and to 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 see how good they can be and believe in themselves and don't care about what other people are saying about your music. If you believe in what you do, you just do it. I mean, I kept doing what I do, and I wasn't even a musician in the beginning. I was an artist, and I just stayed busy through my whole life. And I guess I did get lucky, and I grew up in a crazy time because, I mean, I'm old now, but I mean, I was through the start of, glam rock. I was a teenager, then it was punk rock, then it was new wave, then every genre I've lived through, and I get music, so when I listen to music, I expect to be entertained back.
That's such a great way to put it. And if you want to listen, there's some great new bands as well. Again, check out Contra Cult Collective and Arthur and
I
Punish.
will. I
Yeah.
sure will.
Yep. And the final question I wanted to ask you is kind of like a fairly silly question, but and this one for
Oh,
last.
me silly.
Well, by going by the names of Groovie Mann and Buzz McCoy, in a way, have you felt like that you almost in a way portray an alter ego or a character in your music that you aren't who you are in your everyday life, in a way, so to speak? Like, do you almost feel that there is almost kind of like an alternate version of who Frankie is in my life with the Thrill Kill Cult?
That's so funny. Because I would always think how weird that was when I would hear like Alice Cooper or Bowie or any of those people talking about like the other persona, how they couldn't let it take control of their lives and they had to kill it. And, I was always like, I didn't get it. But I do now, with the Groovie Man. Yeah, I mean, it's the same person, but being off for 4 years, which is the longest I've ever been away from my work live and out there. And, it's a trip because I really got to look at what I do and what other people are doing and watch everybody making their comebacks, and losing people in their bands like Depeche Mode or losing the whole band, and I watch all these guys come back and they're all my age or a few years younger. And I watch all that and I'm just like, wow, um,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah, it's amazing to see it all come back. But yeah, I've always wondered too, because I'm a big fan of black metal, and they always have their different
I like
names.
some of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they always have their different names or their aliases that they go by.
Yeah.
But if you ask them like, "Oh, are you portraying a character?" They'll look at you. That's like almost insulting to them.
Yeah. Yeah. I got lost in the mix. But
No.
yeah, with being Groovy Man and Buzz McCoy, right? I mean, we created that when we formed when we made Thrill Kill Cult. We were like, oh, let's make names up for the band, and that's just how we did it. We made names up for the other people that were going to be working with us and told them who they were going to be and stuff. So it was a fun thing, but I never thought anything of it, until, like I said, now it's like I look at my stage persona sometimes and I do think, oh my God, with my, things zipped open, wiggling around, and I'm sort of like, almost like, who is that? Because I'm sort of been subdued and quiet for the last 4 years, as I said,
Yeah.
like, to be pulled back, you just look at all that kind of stuff and it sort of falls in place and you do understand it. I do understand Iggy and what he's doing, and everybody's like, oh my God, put his shirt on. But he's just completely letting go. He's like, look at me. This is who I am. This is who you are. We all are getting old. We all have to embrace who we are. I mean, it sucks, but at the same time, it's like you turn into another person. That's all getting older is. So your art always stays the same. If you're an artist, you're born that way. So what's the worry? You get old, you just you just look like somebody different, and that you have to accept that. Like, oh, I look like my Uncle Joe now. But Uncle Joe, could you imagine him in a band? No. Well, that's you.
That's
Then it's funny.
that's such a good way of putting it. Like that was just such a good in terms of just describing how we evolve as artists. Thank you for that. I'll never forget that saying.
Sometimes I'm on. Other times it's like, what the F is he talking about?
Well, I think either or, I think is a great explanation.
Oh, thank you. I know. I was putting on my mafia hat the other day going, oh, Uncle Louie.
So, before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time and for such an excellent conversation. It's really just.
I'm so sorry for the runaround.
Don't worry about it.
I kept texting Tracy like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh,
Help me.
it's all good. It's all good. It was
Awesome.
Yeah, it's
Awesome.
just anything else with my life with the Thrill Kill Cult you would like to promote with the release of the bedroom tapes coming out and with the up and coming festival. What else could we be expecting from the Thrill Kill Cult?
Out for the bedroom tapes.
Video?
So we'll have a video that will be that'll go along with one of the tracks we pulled off of the bedroom tape. So that should be up any day before we go on tour. So that'll entertain everyone.
I can't wait. Thank you so
We
much.
had the same video artist do it that did Forbidden Saints.
Oh wow.
That's up right now.
Okay.
So he's in Italy. He's brilliant, Felipe.
Awesome. Well, I'll definitely check it out, and can't wait for more people to check it out as well. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
We are here with Groovie Man of My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult. Be sure to check out edition 4 of the Bedroom Tapes, Sinister Whispers. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.